This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. The information contained in this podcast is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual professional legal advice. The podcast information was carefully compiled from vetted sources and references. However, Rose Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly cannot guarantee that you will not fall victim to a scam. Let's talk about scams. It's the must-listen show for anyone who wants to protect themselves and their loved ones from scams. Every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio, Joyce Petrowski, founder of Rose, and her guests will provide valuable insights and practical tips on how to recognize and protect yourself from scams. And now, here is your host, Joyce Petrowski.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Joyce Petrowski, founder and board president of Rose Resources Outreach to Safeguard the Elderly. You can find more information on our website at roseadvocacy.org. You'll also find our social media channels, and you can subscribe down at the bottom of the homepage to our emailed and or mailed newsletter that we send out every month to get more information on scams and how to protect yourself. So today, I wanted to talk about the FBI just recently, as of last Friday, April 18th, issued a public service announcement. FBI warns of scammers impersonating the IC3. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what the IC3, what that department actually is. So it started back in 2000, and they receive complaints. They're a division of the FBI where you file complaints and of all types of cybercrime, including online fraud and a lot of other types of fraud and cybercrime. And in 2003, well, let's say when they first started it, it used to be called the Internet Fraud Complaint Center, the IFCC. But in October of 2003, they renamed it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is how they got the I, the C as in cat, and then the number 3. And that was to basically, so no one would distinguish it as internet fraud. So it would include all types of crimes, matters related to the internet, cyber, and all of that. So it's the Internet Crime Complaint Center, the IC3. The website is ic3.gov. So with the .gov, you can tell it's a government organization, and they file based on the data that they collect. When people file complaints, they would do an annual report every year. Very comprehensive. It includes, breaks things down between different age populations, breaks things down between number of victims, amount of losses, and it will even talk about, give you more detail on some of the most reported crimes that year, just a wealth of information. And then they take it a step further, and they take that report with all the complaints and say, we're going to do an elder fraud report, which is for the age population of 60 years old and older. And then they publish that one. Now, I did just look this morning, and for the reports for 2024 are not on their website, but they should be out any day. I'm very, very curious, especially with the elder fraud report, to see what the statistics are for the calendar year 2024. Just to give you a quick mission statement of the Internet Crime Complaint Center is to provide the public and private sector with a mechanism to submit information to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, so that's the FBI, concerning suspected cyber-facilitated criminal activity and to develop effective alliances with law enforcement and industry partners. Information is analyzed and disseminated for investigative and intelligence purposes to law enforcement and for public awareness. And just to give you some history on from 2019 to 2023 based on the Internet Crime Complaint Center's reporting. In 2019, and again, this is all age populations, there were $3.5 billion in reported losses. That was in 2019. 2023, it jumped all the way to $12.5 billion. And again, that's just what's reported. So the number of actual losses is much higher than this. But if you combine 2019's losses all the way through 2020, 21, 22, and 23 losses, there's over $37 billion were reported lost. So you can see how this becomes a larger and larger problem every year. Let's see. So the IC3 is a forum for people to report their crimes. Sorry about that, everyone. I thought I had myself all connected this morning, and I didn't. I was missing one of my connections, and so everything started buffering, and I lost connection. So give me just a second here to get my earpiece back in. Those of you that are watching get to watch me finagle with this. It's always a pain. I should probably just wear those big headphones. Or maybe I'll start doing that. But anyways, back to what I was saying. The Internet Crime Complaint Center is a place for people to report their internet crimes when they've become a victim. And then the IC3 takes this information and distributes it out to the relevant law enforcement departments. So if somebody is in Florida and they're filing the report that they've been a victim, then that information is going to get disseminated to the different law enforcement offices in Florida, in the area where this person lives. So now we're going to get to the public service announcement that they issued. Again, I said it was on April 18th, which was just last Friday. So when the FBI issues these public service announcements, it's because they've seen an uptick in this activity that they're talking about. And they've seen an uptick in scammers are impersonating the IC3 department, just like they impersonate all other. They've impersonated a wide variety of other government agencies. They impersonate larger, more well-known companies. I always, even in the presentations, I use Amazon as an example. Scammers love to impersonate Amazon because they know the majority of us have an Amazon account. Whether we use it or not, it's a different story, but the majority of us have one. And so there's a bigger chance that they're going to get more people to click on those links in the emails or the text messages or call the phone number that's listed, or if they happen to call, answer the phone and start engaging with them or call them back. Because I have seen where people have shown me that scammers actually have started leaving voicemails. I know a lot of times they'll say that they'll just hang up, but I've actually listened to some people's voicemails that scammers have left. So now, whether it's them or whether they've got some computer software out there leaving those voicemails, not too sure about that. But they're always looking for ways to up their game. So scammers are out there impersonating the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And just between December of 23 and February of 25, so a little over a year, the FBI had received more than 100 reports of the IC3 impersonation scams. So here's how it works. And in the show notes, you're going to see where we've given you the link to the actual public service announcement if you want to go there and read it. So the people that complained said the initial contact that came from the scammers varied. Some people received an email, some people received phone calls, other people were approached on social media or other types of online forums. So again, they have a wide, if we go back to our anatomy of a scam, what's the first part of that is the scammer has to make contact somehow, right? And we've talked about phone calls, text messages, social media, online chat forums, online games, dating sites, emails, just a whole wide variety of ways they can make contact. But almost all of those complaints that the FBI received, the scammers claim to have recovered the victim's lost funds or offered to assist in recovering the funds. So they're basically, it's a claim in a ruse to re-victimize those who have already lost money to scams. Here's a recent example of how this impersonation scheme indicates, it indicates that scammers create female persona profiles on social media networking sites, and then they join groups for financial fraud victims, representing themselves as fellow financial fraud victims. And then the scammers recommend actual victims reach out to a male persona, and that person alleges to be the chief director of the Internet Crime Complaint Center. And they've noticed a lot of that has come via Telegram. I'm not too familiar with Telegram, but I understand it's another chat service, another way to communicate. And then once the victim contacts the alleged chief director of the IC3, that person claims to have recovered that victim's lost funds and then uses that to gain access to their financial information, which then will re-victimize them. So this is going to be especially for the people out there that, one, have already fallen victim to an internet crime and have, whether you've reported it or not, if you're in a group specifically for financial fraud victims, and there could be a wide variety of those types of groups out there, right? It's like a support group for just about anything. There's support groups out there for like grieving widows or widowers, or support groups for different types of addictions and things like that. So just be extremely careful if you are in one of those support groups and somebody is trying to tell you that you need to talk to this person from the IC3 because they might already have gotten your money back or they can help you get it back. Just be very wary of that. The IC3 has said that they will never directly communicate with individuals via the phone, email, social media, phone apps, or public forums. If after a report is filed with the IC3, if further information is needed, those individuals will be contacted by FBI employees from local field offices or other law enforcement officers. So again, in the beginning, remember when we said you would go to the IC3.gov and click on the link to file a complaint or file a report and give them all of that information? The people that are working there that are collecting all of that information, they are taking it and disseminating it to the appropriate local FBI field and or other law enforcement offices locally to where the victim is. So this IC3 is a data collection to then be able to disseminate information. They are not going to contact you to get more information. You will have, if more information is needed, you will have someone from the local, your local FBI office or other law enforcement office contact you about the situation to get more information. Even though the scammers might change their names and their tactics, they have found that the scheme generally remains the same. You think you're talking to somebody, an employee of the IC3, and they've either already recovered your funds or they can help you get them back, all in a ruse to get your financial information. So you have to be very careful with that, and you never want to share any sensitive, personal, confidential information with anyone that you've met online or over the phone. And even if you've met them in person, you want to be extremely careful that you don't share personal, confidential information with them. You need to be very, very protective of that information. Have that healthy skepticism. Ask yourself in your head the question, why do they need this information? Ask them the question, why do you need this information? If it truly is a scammer, I'm sure they're going to have answers for you. But still, you have to have that healthy skepticism and just tell yourself, no, I'm not giving it. I will contact this office directly with a phone number or an email or a website that I know is verified for that verified office, and I will talk to them myself. Also know that FBI, other law enforcement officers, the IC3, all of them, none of them will ask for payment to help recover lost funds. Or will they refer you to a company, a quote unquote company that can help you recover your funds, but they need a payment in advance. They're not going to refer you out either. And be very careful when someone says, hey, there's a fee for this, or I can help you get your funds, or you've won this, but you need to pay these fees or these taxes, or and you can just buy gift cards, or we have a cryptocurrency account. You can just go to this cryptocurrency ATM and put the money in there. Be very careful with that. The FBI does highly suggest that if you are a victim of an online, scam or fraud, that you do immediately report it. You go to the I, so the letter I, C as in cat, the number 3.gov, and that .gov lets you know that it is a government website, and try to give them as much information as you can. So like identifying information about the person or company that contacted you, where you were contacted, how you were contacted, the method of communication that was used, if websites, emails, telephone numbers, if there was a financial payment made, you're going to want to have like the date, the type of payment, the amount, if there's any account numbers, the name and address of the receiving financial institution and the receiving cryptocurrency addresses. And then describe your interaction with the individual, how the contact started, the type of communication, the purpose of the request for money, how you were told or instructed to make payments, what information you provided to the scammer, and any other details about the complaint. There is a notation here in the public service announcement that says victims age 60 or over who need assistance filing an IC3 complaint can contact the Department of Justice Elder Justice Hotline, and there's a phone number in there. I will read it to you. It's 1-833 and then fraud, FRAUD 11. So that's 1-833-372-8311. And again, we have the website, the link to this public service announcement in our show notes, that you can go directly to the PSA and you can find all of this information with this phone number. If you're 60 or over and you need assistance filing the complaint form, you can call the Department of Justice Elder Justice Hotline and they will help you file the complaint. If you want to do it yourself, it's ic3.gov, and that'll take you directly to the page where you click on the button to file a complaint with them. And as soon as we have the IC3 report for 2024, we'll do an episode with that. And we will also, when the elder fraud report comes out for 2024, we will highlight that to see what the statistics are for 2024. So again, if you can't get to the link in the show notes, you can always just type in your internet search bar, FBI public service announcement, April 18th, 2025, and it should pop right up and you can find it that way. But just to recap, just know that no one from the IC3 department of the FBI is going to call you when you filed a report. They gather this information and they send it out to the appropriate local law enforcement or FBI offices local to you. And if those offices need more information, they will reach out to you. And if that does happen, before you want to give out any personal information, you can just say, I'll call the FBI office myself, or I'll call whatever local law enforcement it is myself and look up their verified phone number. And you make that call, or if you know where their office is, make an appointment to go down there. Again, that's your way to verify that you are actually talking to someone from the local law enforcement office or the local FBI office, because scammers they've been known to impersonate, they've been impersonating law enforcement for a long time. If you recently remember, the IRS scam's been around for a long time, right? And so a lot of people have caught on to that. Okay, the IRS is not going to call you. And so you don't necessarily believe when that phone call that you get says you owe these back taxes, so you hang up. Well, they tell you on that phone call that if you don't pay this money, that the next, contact you're going to get is from, your local law enforcement office, because there'll be an arrest warrant. Well, then the next phone call that comes through, it comes across with your local law enforcement's caller ID. And now they say they're impersonating local law enforcement, saying they've got an arrest warrant and all of that. So scammers have been impersonating law enforcement for a long time. So if you do happen to get a phone call because you filed a report with the IC3 and it's coming from your local law enforcement, you still don't have to give any information out. you can find the verified phone number to the local law enforcement office and call them directly back. That way, you know that you are talking to that local law enforcement office and you are not just relying on what someone is telling you. Because, scammers can just tell you, oh, I'm from, the Phoenix Police Department, or I'm from the local FBI office in the city of Phoenix, and we have some questions on this report you filed. And you very well might have filed a report, and so you think it's all legitimate, but it could just be the perfect timing for the scammers. And so that's why it's always good for you to verify, to look up that local law enforcement office's phone number and then call them back, or make an appointment and go down to their office and answer their questions that way. For you today, just be wary when you get those phone calls or get contacted through a wide variety of online forums. Somebody, trying to help you, get your money back, especially if you're in one of those groups for financial fraud victims, right? Just be very, very careful when someone's claiming they can get your money back. That is up to the law enforcement, and you want to make sure you are verifying that you are dealing directly with them. So you can go to our website at roseadvocacy.org and find some more resources and tips and tools on how to protect yourself. You can sign up for our monthly emailed or mailed newsletters at the bottom of our homepage on our website. You'll also find our social media links on there as well. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then our YouTube page. And if you have any questions or want to hear a certain topic, you want to hear us discuss more about something in particular, send us an email. You can send it to info@roseadvocacy.org, or you can just go to the homepage of our website, roseadvocacy.org, and go all the way down to the bottom, and it'll say contact us, and send us a message that way. And we will get back to you. So thank you for joining us today. And remember to always verify who you are dealing with before you give out any personal confidential information or any financial information. Next week, we are going to dive into how do you know if you're on a legitimate website or is it a fake website? Possibly a scammer's website. So we're going to dive in on some tips on how to determine whether it's a legit website or a fake website. So tune in next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and we'll have some tips on how to do that. Thank you, everyone.
Well, that's all the knowledge for this episode. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com as Joyce explores a variety of knowledge so you have the power to make scam protection your healthy habit. And until then, feel free to reach out to Joyce and let's talk about scams.